Hello, and welcome. The Colosseum today is a great and silent ruin, a beautiful skeleton of stone that stands against the Roman sky. But this is not the story of a ruin. This is the story of the building when it was alive, a place filled with the roar of 50,000 voices, and the stage for the greatest spectacle on earth. Before we take our seats, if you enjoy these journeys into the past, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. I'd also love to know where you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights, find your most comfortable position, and let's travel back to the heart of Imperial Rome. Our story begins in the year 110 AD, in the magnificent, chaotic, overcrowded heart of the known world, the city of Rome. It is a special day. The Emperor, Trajan, has decreed a grand series of ludi or games to celebrate a recent military victory. For the people of Rome, it is a day of holiday, of free entertainment, and of thrilling spectacle. You are Lucius, a citizen of Rome, a moderately successful merchant of pottery. Your day begins, like that of 100,000 other citizens, hours before the dawn. You are woken not by the sun, but by the growing noise from the street below your apartment, your insula. The usual dull roar of the city is today a high-pitched, excited buzz. The entire city is awake and is moving in one direction. Your morning routine is a hurried one. You wash your face in a basin of cool water and chew on a piece of parsley to freshen your breath. Your breakfast, the intaculum, is a simple affair. A piece of coarse bread dipped in wine and a handful of olives. Today the food is not for pleasure, but for fuel. It will be a long day. The most important part of your preparation is your clothing. To attend the games as a citizen, you must wear the proper attire. You shed your simple everyday tunic and, with the help of your wife, you drape yourself in the heavy, cumbersome, but deeply symbolic folds of a clean white toga. It is the formal dress of a Roman citizen, and it is your right and your duty to wear it on such an occasion. The final, crucial item is your ticket, your tessera. It is not a piece of paper, but a small shard of broken pottery, carefully marked with a series of numbers. You look at it closely. It tells you everything you need to know. It indicates your gate number, LII 52. It indicates your section VI, and it indicates your row, X 10. In a city of 1,000,000 people and an amphitheater that holds 50,000, this small piece of clay is the key to your own personal designated place in the great order of things. You and your brother, Flavius, leave your apartment and join the great human river that is flowing through the streets. The city in the pre-dawn light is a place of incredible energy. The narrow, winding streets of your neighborhood are packed with people, all hurrying in the same direction. Street vendors are already out in force, their stalls lit by smoky oil lamps, selling sausages, roasted chickpeas, and sweet, honeyed cakes to the crowds. The air is thick with the smells of cooking food, of unwashed bodies, of the ever-present foul odor from the city's open drains, and of a palpable electric excitement. As you get closer to the heart of the city, the streets grow wider, grander. You walk through the great chaotic space of the Roman Forum, past the magnificent temples and the towering basilicas, all still shrouded in the gray morning mist. And then you see it. As you round a corner, it rises before you, a sight so immense, so powerful, that it stops your breath, no matter how many times you have seen it. The Flavian Amphitheater, the Colosseum. It is not the skeletal, broken ruin of a future time. It is a new, gleaming, and almost living thing. Its 4 stories of arches, made from a pale honey-colored travertine stone, rise up into the sky like a man-made mountain. The arches of the upper stories are filled with hundreds of life-sized marble statues of gods and heroes, their white forms seeming to greet the dawn. The entire structure is a testament to the immense, unshakable power and engineering genius of Rome. The crowd outside the amphitheater is a vast, swirling sea of white togas. But there is no panic, no great crush. The genius of the building is in how it manages its people. There are 80 great arched entrances at ground level, and each one is marked with a Roman numeral. You and your brother find your gate number 52. You hand your tessera to the official, who gives it a cursory glance and waves you through. You are now inside the great stone beast. You're not in a single open space, but in a complex, vaulted, and surprisingly cool network of corridors and staircases. These are the vomitoria, the passages that are designed to vomit forth the crowds with an incredible efficiency. You follow the signs, your feet echoing on the stone floors. As you make your way upwards and inwards, a single drop of water in the great plumbing of the building. Finally, you emerge from a dark, vaulted passageway and step out into the brilliant morning light of the arena. The sight is breathtaking. You are in your assigned row, a set of stone seats about halfway up the great bowl. Below you is the vast oval floor of the arena, its surface a perfect, clean, and undisturbed layer of pale sand, the arena. And all around you, rising tier upon tier, are the seats already beginning to fill with thousands upon thousands of your fellow citizens. You look up and see, high above, the great wooden masts that ring the top of the amphitheater, the rigging for the great sail-like awning, the velarium that will soon be unfurled to shade you from the sun. You have arrived. You have found your place. Sit on the cool stone seat, looking down at the empty, waiting sand, and you feel a deep, thrilling sense of participation in the very heart of Roman power and Roman glory. The long day of spectacle is about to begin. You settle into your place on the hard stone bench, a single, anonymous citizen in a vast and growing sea of white togas. The sheer scale of the crowd is almost as awe-inspiring as the building itself. You are a part of a great living organism of 50,000 souls, all gathered together for this single communal purpose. From your vantage point, you can see the strict, unyielding social order of Rome laid out before you like a map. Below you, on the wide marble-faced podium, are the best seats in the house. Here sit the great men of the empire, the senators in their togas with the broad purple stripe, their cushioned marble thrones a testament to their immense power and prestige. A special, ornate box, the pulvinar, is reserved for the emperor himself and his family. And in a place of honor, you can see the white-robed figures of the Vestal Virgins, their presence lending a sacred air to the day's proceedings. Above the senators, in the next tier, are the equities, the equestrian class, the wealthy businessmen, and knights of Rome. And then comes your own section, Minianum Secundum, reserved for ordinary Roman citizens, the plebs togata, a great white belt of thousands of men like yourself, the backbone of the city. Higher still, in the upper tiers, the social ladder continues to descend. Here sit the common poor, the foreigners, the freed slaves, and at the very top, in the highest gallery of all, a section with wooden bleachers known as the Meienian Summum in Lignes, are the women, their colorful dresses a stark contrast to the sea of white togas below. The Colosseum is a perfect architectural diagram of the Roman world, with every person in their proper designated place. The air hums with the sound of 50,000 conversations, a low, constant, and expectant roar. Vendors, their voices sharp and piercing, move through the aisles, selling cushions to place on the hard stone seats, as well as snacks like roasted chickpeas, sausages, and sweet honeyed pastries. The sun, now rising higher in the sky, begins to beat down on the great stone bowl of the amphitheater. Then, a great cheer erupts from one side of the crowd and spreads like a wave. You look up and you see the reason. A team of sailors from the special detachment of the Misenum fleet is beginning to unfurl the velarium. It is a colossal sail-like awning of dark linen canvas, and it is a spectacle of engineering in its own right. With a complex system of ropes and pulleys, the sailors, working from the great wooden masts that ring the top of the building, begin to pull the immense sections of cloth out over the seating area. Slowly, section by section, the harsh, direct sunlight is replaced by a cool, pleasant shade, leaving only the sand of the arena floor exposed to the bright sun. And with the shade comes another more subtle and more luxurious sensation. A fine, cool mist begins to drift down over the crowd. It is scented water, a mixture of water and saffron, or sometimes a sweet balsamic perfume. It is sprayed from a hidden network of pipes that runs throughout the structure. A clever device to cool the crowd and to mask the growing smell of so many thousands of unwashed bodies packed together in the heat. Suddenly, a new sound, the sharp, clear blast of trumpets, cuts through the din of the crowd. A hush falls. All heads turn towards the imperial box. The emperor, Trajan, has arrived. The entire 50,000-strong crowd rises to its feet as one. A great rhythmic chant begins, a thunderous roar of hail. Caesar, hail, emperor, giver of games. It is a massive, orchestrated, and overwhelming display of public adoration and political loyalty. The emperor, a stern military figure, gives a simple, dignified wave to the crowd and then takes his seat. With the emperor in place, the games can officially begin. The great gates at one end of the arena swing open, and the pompa, the opening procession, begins. It is led by a group of musicians, their polished bronze horns and trumpets, the cornu and the tuba glinting in the sun. They are accompanied by the strange, beautiful, and powerful sound of a hydraulis, a water-powered organ, its music a reedy, whistling melody that fills the entire amphitheater. Behind the musicians come the officials of the games. The priests in their formal robes and scribes carrying the wax tablets on which the day's events will be recorded.
Nice.
Then come the stars of the show. First, the Venators, the beast hunters of the morning's games, dressed in light, practical tunics, but carrying their specialized weapons, long spears, bows, and daggers. And finally, to the greatest roar from the crowd, come the gladiators. They march in a long, disciplined column, their magnificent and varied armor polished to a mirror shine. You see the Threx with his small square shield and curved scimitar. You see the Hoplomachus, armed like a Greek hoplite with a spear and a bronze helmet. And you see the towering, heavily armored Secutor, his featureless, fish-like helmet designed to be the perfect counter to his nemesis, the net-wielding Retiarius. They are a vision of deadly, professional glamour, the great heroes and celebrities of your age. The procession makes a full circuit of the arena, their sandaled feet silent on the sand. They halt before the imperial box, and, as one, they raise their right hands in the famous traditional salute. The procession then files out through another great gate. A profound, expectant silence falls over the great crowd once more. The opening ceremonies are complete. The arena is empty. You look down at the clean, pale, sun-drenched sand, and you see a section of the floor begin to open, a wooden trapdoor, lifted from below by a hidden mechanism. The morning's games are about to begin. A deep, expectant hush falls over the 50,000 spectators. The grand procession is over. The emperor is seated, and the clean, sun-drenched sand of the arena floor lies empty and waiting. The trapdoor that you saw open is a dark, rectangular hole in the center of the arena, a mysterious gateway to the world below. You, Lucius, know, as all Romans do, that the floor of the Colosseum is not solid ground. It is a great wooden stage, covered in a thick layer of sand, the arena, which gives the arena its name. And beneath that stage lies a secret and incredible world, a place that is the true engine of the day's spectacles, the hypogeum. It is a vast, two-story subterranean labyrinth of tunnels, passages, and chambers. It is a dark, crowded, and noisy world, lit by the smoky glow of torches and oil lamps. Down there, in the cool, damp air, is a hive of activity. Teams of hundreds of slaves work in the darkness, their muscles straining as they turn great wooden capstans and pull on the ropes of immense elevators. Down there are the gladiators, waiting in their cells, listening to the roar of the crowd above, a sound that is for them both a promise of glory and a premonition of death. And down there, in a series of 80 heavily barred cages, are the true stars of the morning's show, the beasts. Suddenly, a low groaning and creaking sound begins to rise from the depths of the arena. The single trapdoor is joined by others. All across the oval floor, sections of the sand-covered stage begin to lift, to pivot, to sink away, revealing the darkness below. And from these new openings, a miracle of stagecraft begins to emerge. Great painted backdrops of trees and mountains begin to rise, lifted from below by the hidden machinery. Real trees, their roots bound in great earthen pots, are hoisted into place. Large moss-covered rocks and artificial hills ascend into the light, locking together to form a new, uneven landscape. In the space of 15 minutes, the flat, empty, and predictable oval of the arena floor is gone, replaced by a stunning and convincing simulacrum of a wild, rocky forest from the wilds of Germania. A great collective gasp of wonder and delight goes up from the crowd. This is the magic of the games, a display of engineering and artistry that is as much a part of the entertainment as the combat itself. Now a series of iron gates at the base of the arena wall slide open, and from them the first of the day's performers are released. It is a herd of wild stags and a pack of hounds. This is the opening act, a simple warm-up hunt. The hounds, released at the other end of the arena, chase the stags through the artificial forest. A display of speed and agility that delights the crowd. But this is merely the appetizer. The true morning spectacle, the Venetians, the beast hunts, are about to begin. The arena is cleared and new, more exotic creatures are introduced. On one gate, a herd of ostriches from the deserts of North Africa emerges, their long legs moving with a strange lurching grace. From another, A great lumbering brown bear from the mountains of Caledonia is prodded into the sunlight, blinking in the bright light, its great head swaying from side to side. Then the Venatores, the beast hunters, enter the arena. They are not the heavily armored gladiators of the afternoon. They are a different kind of performer, specialists in a different kind of combat. They are lightly armed, some with long boar spears, others with bows, and some with nothing but a net and a dagger. Their skill is not in brute force, but in agility, speed, and their deep, practical knowledge of the animals they are to fight. The hunt begins. It is a carefully choreographed performance, a ballet of human skill against animal ferocity. A spearman, his body nimble, provokes the great bear into a series of lunging charges. Sidestepping the great, clawed paws at the last possible second to the roar of the crowd. Archers, perched on the artificial rocks, take aim at the fleet-footed ostriches. You watch, captivated. It is a display of the sheer, boundless power and reach of the Roman Empire. These are creatures from the farthest, most exotic corners of the known world, from the deserts of Africa, the forests of the north, the mountains of the east. They have all been captured, transported thousands of miles, and brought here to this single, sand-covered stage in the heart of the city to die for your entertainment. It is a powerful and deeply satisfying reminder of your own place at the center of the world. The sun is now high in the sky. The great velarium above you casts the crowd in a cool, pleasant shade. The air is filled with the roar of the crowd, the strange cries of the exotic animals, and the scent of saffron-laced water. The gathering of the crowd is complete. The great Roman spectacle has begun. The morning's entertainment unfolds in a series of carefully planned and escalating spectacles. The simple hunts of stags and boars are merely a prelude, a way to whet the crowd's appetite for the more dramatic and more dangerous displays to come. The artificial forest is cleared away, its components sinking back into the hidden world of the hypogeum, and the arena is once again a flat, open expanse of sand. Now the true stars of the Venetians are introduced. A great iron-barred gate is raised, and a magnificent Barbary lion, its great dark mane, a symbol of its power, stalks out into the arena. It has been starved for days to make it aggressive, and its confused rage is a palpable thing. It lets out a great, deep-chested roar, a sound of wild, untamed nature that echoes through the vast man-made stone amphitheater, sending a delicious shiver of fear and excitement through the crowd. From the opposite gate enters a single man. He is a bestiarius, a beast fighter, a star performer who specializes in this deadly form of combat. He is not a heavily armed gladiator. He is an athlete, his body lean and muscular. He is armed only with a long, leaf-bladed spear, the venabulum, and a small, round, and highly maneuverable shield. The contest that follows is a display of incredible courage and skill. It is a deadly dance between man and beast. The lion charges, a blur of tawny muscle and claws. The bestiarius does not stand his ground. He moves, he dodges, he uses his shield not to block the blow, but to deflect the lion's charge, turning the great cat's own momentum against it. The crowd roars its approval at every near miss, at every display of athletic grace. The fight continues for several minutes, a tense and beautiful ballet of skill against raw power. Finally, the bestiarius sees his opening. As the lion rises on its hind legs to strike, he plants the butt of his spear in the sand, and with a powerful upward thrust, he drives the iron point deep into the lion's chest. The great beast collapses, its lifeblood staining the pale sand a dark, dramatic crimson. The bestiarius raises his spear to the crowd, and you, along with 50,000 others, are on your feet, shouting his name. The spectacles are not always man against beast. The Roman audience, with its insatiable appetite for novelty, delights in seeing exotic animals pitted against each other in strange and imaginative pairings. A new set is raised from the hypogeum, this time a landscape of artificial rocks and pools of water. A great, lumbering rhinoceros, its hide like a suit of armor, is released into the arena, along with a bull elephant. The two great monstrous creatures, who would never meet in the wild, now face each other on this sandy stage, their confused fear quickly turning to aggression.
Ow.
The ground seems to shake as they collide, a battle of pure, primal, and prehistoric power. These displays are often interspersed with lighter, more comical interludes. After a particularly bloody contest, a troupe of acrobats might enter, their nimble bodies performing incredible feats of tumbling and balance. Sometimes trained animals are brought out. You watch, amazed, as a group of elephants is made to perform a mock dance. And one of them is even guided to trace a message of greeting to the emperor in the sand with its trunk. These moments of levity are a crucial part of the day's rhythm, a way of releasing the tension before the next more serious spectacle begins. One of the strangest and most grim of the morning's entertainments is the reenactment of myths. These are not simple plays. They are performed by condemned criminals, and the mythological death is made real. The arena is decorated to look like a scene from the wilds of Thrace. A man, a convicted murderer, is led out, dressed in the costume of the mythical poet Orpheus. He is given a lyre. As he sits on a rock and begins to play a simple, haunting melody, a series of trapdoors open, and a collection of animals, wolves, bears, and leopards, are released into the arena. For a moment, a strange and beautiful scene unfolds. The animals, perhaps confused by the music or simply not yet aggressive, gather around the musician, seemingly pacified by his tune, a living recreation of the famous legend. The crowd murmurs in appreciation at the beautiful tableau. But this is not a story with a happy ending. After a few minutes, a handler, an arena attendant, prods one of the bears with a hot iron. The animal, enraged by the pain, turns on the nearest target. The beautiful scene dissolves into a brief, brutal, and horrifying reality as the man dressed as Orpheus is torn apart by the very beasts his music was supposed to have tamed. It is a strange, unsettling, and uniquely Roman fusion of high art, religious myth, and the cold, hard finality of a state-sanctioned execution. As the midday sun climbs to its highest point, the morning's games come to an end. A different set of gates opens, and a new kind of procession enters the arena. They are the Heronary, the Sandmen, the grim and efficient cleanup crew of the Colosseum. They move with a practiced, almost bored detachment. Some, armed with hooks and ropes, drag the great heavy carcasses of the dead animals out of the arena. Others carry stretchers for the bodies of the slain performers and criminals. Behind them comes another group, their task to erase all evidence of the morning's carnage. They carry great wide wooden rakes, and they move across the arena in a disciplined line, raking the blood-soaked sand, turning it over, and smoothing its surface. In a remarkably short period of time, the great, stained, and chaotic battlefield is once more a pristine and deceptively peaceful expanse of pale, clean sand, ready for the next phase of the day's entertainment, the midday executions. As the last of the animal carcasses are dragged from the arena, a subtle shift occurs in the great amphitheater. The sun is now high and hot directly overhead, and it marks the beginning of the midday interlude. This is a strange and often grim part of the day's festivities, a time when the nature of the spectacle changes from a display of skill against nature to a cold and brutal demonstration of Roman justice. You notice that the crowd around you begins to thin. Many of the wealthier attendees, the senators and the equestrians from the lower tiers, now rise, gather their cloaks, and make their way towards the vomitoria. For them, this midday period is an uncivilized and distasteful affair, a time for a proper lunch, a prandium, at their comfortable homes or at a nearby tavern. But you, Lucius, and the thousands of other ordinary citizens in the upper tiers, you remain. The games are a gift from the emperor, and to leave would be to waste a part of that gift. You unwrap the simple lunch your wife has packed for you, a piece of hard cheese, a crust of bread, and an apple. You eat as you watch, the common man's lunch amidst the grandeur of the world's greatest arena. The atmosphere in the Colosseum grows quieter, more somber. The first of the midday spectacles begins. A new procession enters the arena, but this is not the glorious pomp of the morning. It is a small, sad group of a dozen or so men, their hands tied behind their backs, their faces a mask of terror and resignation. They are the Noxi, the condemned criminals. A herald, his voice amplified by the amphitheater's acoustics, announces the first man's name and his crime. Decimus of Subura, the voice booms. Found guilty of sacrilege against the temple of the divine Augustus, the penalty is death by the beasts. The man, Decimus, is taken to the center of the arena and tied to a wooden stake. He is a small, pathetic figure, alone on the vast expanse of sand. Then a gate is opened, and two lean, hungry leopards are released. The spectacle that follows is not a fight in any sense of the word. It is not a display of skill. It is a raw, brutal, and mercifully brief execution. You watch, not with the excited roar you had for the bestiarius, but with a kind of grim, detached fascination. This is not a sport. This is the law. This is what happens to those who defy the gods in the order of Rome. It is a powerful and effective lesson, a public demonstration of the state's absolute power over life and death. The process is repeated with the other criminals. Some are executed by beasts in a grim spectacle known as damnatio ad bestias. Others are subjected to a different, and perhaps even crueler, form of execution. Two criminals might be brought out and given real weapons, a sword and a shield, but with no armor and no training. They are then forced to fight each other in a dark parody of a true gladiatorial match. The victor, the man who has just been forced to kill another, is not granted his freedom. His reward is to be immediately executed by a professional soldier who enters the arena for that sole purpose. This grim theater of justice is a necessary part of the day, but it is a heavy and somber one. And so, when the last of the bodies have been dragged away and the sand has been raked clean once more, the mood is deliberately and dramatically lifted. It is time for the imperial largesse. A group of officials and priests enters the arena, their arms laden with large wicker baskets. By these baskets, they begin to throw thousands of small wooden tokens, the Spartians, out into the crowd. The somber mood of the executions evaporates in an instant, replaced by a frenzied, almost riotous excitement. You and everyone around you are on your feet, pushing, shoving, and reaching, desperate to catch one of these small pieces of wood as they rain down from the sky. It is a chaotic, joyful, and thrilling lottery. You manage to catch one, a simple, disc-shaped token, and you clutch it in your hand as if it were a gold coin. Most of these tokens, can be redeemed for a simple prize: a loaf of bread, a small pouch of grain, a piece of fruit. But the crowd is driven by the knowledge that a very few, of these tokens are marked for truly magnificent prizes. Stories are told of men who have caught a token that has won them a horse, a deed to a new apartment, or even a small farm. It is this slim, tantalizing possibility of a life-changing fortune that fuels the frenzy. You look at your own token. It is unmarked, a simple token for a loaf of bread, but you are not disappointed. It is a gift from the emperor, and it is a part of the day's great experience. The midday lull is now over. The grim business of justice has been done, and the crowd's spirits have been lifted by the generosity of their emperor. The senators and the equestrians begin to filter back to their seats, their bellies full, ready for the main event. The sun is beginning its slow descent in the western sky. The sand of the arena, having been the stage for a hunt, an execution, and a lottery, is raked clean one final time. A new set of musicians enters, their trumpets sounding a loud, clear fanfare. The hour of the gladiators has arrived. As the last of the prize tokens are caught and the excitement of the imperial lottery subsides, a new and more profound wave of anticipation builds within the great amphitheater. The sun has begun its slow descent from its zenith, and the light in the arena has softened to a warm, golden hue. The lighter fare of the morning and the grim necessities of the midday are over. It is time for the main event, the reason that most of you have come here today. It is the hour of the gladiators. A great triumphant fanfare of trumpets and horns echoes from the eastern gate. The Porta Triumphalis, the Gate of Triumph. The crowd, which had been a low conversational murmur, now rises to a single, unified, and deafening roar. The Pampa, the grand procession of the gladiators, has begun. They march into the arena not as prisoners or slaves, but as heroes, as the athletic superstars of the Roman world. They are not yet wearing their grim functional combat armor. Instead, they are dressed in magnificent embroidered robes of purple, crimson, and gold, their muscular bodies on full display. They march in a long, disciplined column, their heads held high, their expressions a mask of practiced, arrogant confidence. They make a full, slow circuit of the arena, acknowledging the roaring adoration of the 50,000 spectators. You shout the names of your favorites, the famous veterans whose victories have earned them fame and a measure of fortune. These are not just anonymous fighters. They are celebrities, men whose skill and courage have made them living legends. The procession halts before the imperial box in a single fluid and perfectly synchronized motion. The entire troop of gladiators raises their right arms in a formal salute to the emperor. A great cry goes up from the ranks of the fighters, a sound that is both a plea and a promise. The legendary salute that will echo through the ages. Avenue, Imperator, Morituri, te salutem, Hail, Emperor. Those who are about to die salute you. With the salute given, the ceremony is not yet complete. The fighting does not begin with the sharp, lethal blades of war. It begins with a warm-up, a display of skill known as the prelucio. The gladiators are given blunted wooden weapons, the arma lusoria, and they engage in a series of mock duels. It is a form of athletic theater, a chance for the fighters to warm up their muscles, and for the audience to appreciate their technique, their footwork, and their skill in a context that is free from the immediate danger of death. You watch, your eye appraising the form of a new, promising fighter, making your mental bets on who will be victorious when the real combat begins. After the warm-up is complete, the officials for the games enter the arena. The real weapons are brought forth on ornate trays. The magistrate, the editor of the games, ceremonially inspects the blades. He runs his thumb carefully along the edge of a gladius, the short sword of the legionary. He tests the points of a trident. It is another piece of public theater, a solemn assurance to the crowd that the weapons are real, that the coming spectacle will not be a sham, that the blood that is to be shed will be genuine. Finally, the preliminaries are over. The gladiators retire to the side of the arena to be fitted with their proper armor. A herald steps to the center of the sand, and his voice booms across the now silent amphitheater as he announces the first pairing of the day. It is a classic and much-loved matchup, a contest of speed against power, of lightness against heavy armor. It is the retiarius versus the secutor. From one gate, the retiarius emerges. He is almost naked, wearing only a loincloth and a metal guard on his left arm and shoulder, the galeris. He is armed with the weapons of a fisherman, a heavy, weighted net in one hand, and a long, sharp-toothed trident in the other. His strategy is one of speed, of distance, of entangling his opponent and striking from afar. From the other gate comes his opponent, the secutor, the chaser. He is the perfect counterpoint. He is heavily armed with a large rectangular shield, a short sword, and a distinctive smooth, fish-like helmet that covers his entire face, save for two tiny eye holes. Armor is designed to be free of any projections on which the net could snag. His strategy is one of relentless forward pressure, of closing the distance and bringing his sword to bear. The two gladiators step to the center of the arena. They perform a final salute to the emperor. Their assistants make a final check of their equipment. Profound electric silence falls over the 50,000 spectators. You lean forward on your stone seat, your heart pounding. The long day of anticipation, of spectacle, and of ritual is over. The hour of truth has arrived. The official gives the signal. The fight begins. A profound hush falls over the 50,000-strong crowd. The two gladiators, the retiarius and the secutor, stand alone in the vast, sun-drenched oval of the arena. They are a study in contrasts, a living embodiment of a tactical problem. All the ceremony and pageantry of the day has led to this single, simple, and deadly moment. The referee, the summa iudice, a man in a white tunic with a long wooden staff, gives the signal. The fight begins. It does not begin with a wild clashing of arms. It begins as a contest of movement, of space. The retiarius, the net fighter, is in constant motion. He is almost naked, his body light and unencumbered. He moves backwards, sideways, in a wide circle, his trident held low, a probing, defensive weapon, his heavy net coiled and ready in his other hand. His greatest weapon is distance. The secutor, the chaser, does exactly as his name suggests. He moves relentlessly forward. He is a walking fortress of armor. He holds his great rectangular shield, the scutum, close to his body, its curved surface designed to deflect blows. His head is encased in the smooth, featureless helmet, the two tiny eye holes giving him a terrifying, inhuman appearance. His short sword, the gladius, is held ready. His greatest weapon is pressure. You watch your breath held as this deadly geometry unfolds. The Retiarius is a dancer, is trying to tire his heavily armored opponent to force him into a clumsy, lunging mistake. He makes a few quick, jabbing feints with his long trident, trying to probe for an opening, to force the Secutor to lift his shield and expose his legs. The Secutor is a rock. He ignores the feints, absorbs the probing jabs on the hard wood of his shield, and just keeps walking forward, his steps slow, heavy, and inexorable. He is trying to corner the Retiarius, to cut off his escape, to reduce the space until the net fighter has no more room to dance. Then the Retiarius makes his move. With a sudden explosive burst of energy, he spins and casts his net. The heavy lead-weighted net flies through the air, opening into a wide circular web. It is a moment of pure athletic skill. The Secutor is ready. He drops to one knee, bringing his shield up over his head, and the net slithers harmlessly off the smooth, curved surfaces of his helmet and his shield. The crowd lets out a collective groan of disappointment. Now the Retiarius must now quickly retrieve his net, a moment of great vulnerability. He pulls on the drawstring, his back exposed to his opponent. The Secutor charges, his sword now raised to strike, but the Retiarius is too fast. He has his net back in hand and has already created the distance he needs. The dance begins again. For several minutes, this tense tactical ballet continues. The sun beats down on the sand. The only sounds are the soft padding of the Retiarius's feet, the heavy rhythmic tread of the Secutor, the clatter of the trident against the shield, and the low murmuring hum of the 50,000 spectators. Then comes the mistake. The Retiarius, perhaps growing tired or impatient, makes another jab with his trident. This time he overextends, and the Secutor, in a surprisingly swift move, traps the tines of the trident under the rim of his shield. With a powerful twist of his body, he wrenches the long weapon from the Retiarius's grasp. The net fighter is now disarmed of his primary weapon. Crowd roars, sensing the change in the fight. The Retiarius is now at a terrible disadvantage. He holds only his net and a small backup dagger. The Secutor presses his advantage, moving in relentlessly, his sword now jabbing forward. The Retiarius dodges and weaves, but his time is running out. Secutor lunges, his sword striking the net fighter in the thigh, a deep but not a fatal wound. The Retiarius falls to the sand, clutching his wounded leg. The Secutor stands over him, his sword at his opponent's throat, his body heaving with the exertion of the fight. The combat is over, but the ordeal is not. The defeated gladiator, with a final desperate act, performs the gesture that will decide his fate. He drops his net and his dagger, and he raises the first finger of his left hand. It is the missio, the formal plea for mercy, a signal of surrender. The referee steps in, placing his staff between the two fighters. The Secutor, obedient to the rules, steps back, his sword still ready, and he looks up towards the crowd and towards the Emperor. Now it is your turn. You and the 50,000 other spectators are now the judges. The defeated Retiarius has fought with skill and with courage. He was simply outmaneuvered. A great roar goes up from your section of the crowd. You join in, shouting, "Mit! Mit! Let him go! Let him go!" You wave your handkerchief, a sign for mercy. All around the great amphitheater, You can see a sea of waving cloths, the will of the people made clear. The final decision, however, rests with the editor of the games, the emperor himself. Trajan, from his imperial box, has watched the fight with a calm, analytical gaze. He has listened to the voice of his people. He now rises slightly from his seat and he gives the signal. He turns his thumb. The exact gesture has been lost to history, but its meaning is clear, is the sign of life. The gladiator is to be spared. A great cheer of approval erupts from the crowd. The victorious secutor lowers his sword and gives a respectful nod. The wounded, but now profoundly relieved, Rusarius is helped to his feet by the arena attendants and is led away through the gate he entered to be treated for his wounds. He has lost the fight, but he has been granted the right to live and to fight another day. The victor, the secutor, now makes a slow lap of honor around the arena, his arm raised, basking in the roaring adoration of the crowd. The first combat is over. The roar of the crowd for the victorious secutor slowly subsides. The arena attendants, the heronary, emerge once more, their rakes smoothing over the scuffed-up sand, erasing the footprints and the few dark stains of blood from the Rusarius's wound. The great sun-drenched stage is made pristine and ready once more. The day is long and the spectacle must continue. The herald's voice booms across the amphitheater again, announcing the next pairing. The gates open, and two new and very different types of fighters emerge. From one side comes a Threx, a Thracian-style gladiator. He is a vision of agile deadliness. He is protected by a magnificent helmet with a griffin crest, quilted coverings on his legs, and a high greave on his leading leg. He carries a very small, square shield, the parmula, which offers little in the way of passive defense, but is light and maneuverable. His weapon is the sika, a short curved sword like a scimitar, designed for slashing and for hooking around the edge of an opponent's shield. From the other side comes his opponent, a murmur. He is a vision of the Roman legionary, a heavy defensive fighter. He carries the great rectangular and curved shield of the legions, the scutum, a veritable wall of wood and leather. His helmet is large and heavy, with a distinctive fish-like crest. And his weapon is the classic short-stabbing sword of the Roman soldier, the gladius. This is another classic matchup, a contest not of speed versus power, but of agility versus defense. The fight begins. The Threx is in constant motion, dancing and feinting, his small shield held high, his curved sword a constant flashing threat. He is trying to get around the Murmillo's great shield to find an opening at his side or his back. The Murmillo, in contrast, is almost stationary. He fights from a low crouched position, the great scutum held before him like a door, his helmeted head peering over its top. He is a patient defensive wall, waiting for the faster man to make a mistake, waiting for a single, brief opening where he can make a quick, powerful, and decisive thrust with his gladius. The combat is a tense close-quarters affair. The sound is the constant, percussive thump, thump, thump of the Threx's curved sword striking the face of the great shield, probing for a weakness. The Murmillo gives little ground, occasionally answering with a swift, powerful lunge from behind his shield, which the Threx must quickly dodge. The crowd is alive with the tension of the fight, roaring its approval for every skillful move, every daring feint. You, Lucius, are caught up in the drama, shouting along with the men around you. Then the decisive moment comes. The Threx, in his frustration, attempts a bold move, a great spinning slash, trying to hook his curved sword over the top of the murmello's shield. But the murmello anticipates it. As the Threx is in mid-spin, his body exposed for a fraction of a second, the murmello makes his move. He does not lunge. He takes a single, powerful step forward, and with a short, economical, and brutally efficient thrust from under his shield, he drives his gladius deep into the Thracian's unprotected side. The Threx freezes, a look of stunned, final surprise on his face. He drops his sword and his small shield, and he collapses to the sand. The fight is over. There is no plea for mercy this time. The blow was a fatal one. The crowd's roar is different now. It is not the cheer of sporting appreciation. It is a deeper, more primal, more bloodthirsty sound, the sound of a crowd that has just witnessed a death. The victorious Murmello raises his sword to the emperor and to the crowd, and then he stands back as the grim and theatrical ritual of death begins. An arena attendant, dressed in the grotesque costume of Charon, the mythical ferryman of the dead, enters the arena. He approaches the fallen gladiator, and with a large wooden mallet, he strikes him once on the head, a ceremonial blow to ensure that he is truly dead. Another attendant, dressed as the god Mercury, then touches the body with a red-hot iron rod, a final symbolic test for any sign of life. Seeing none, they signal to the Heronary. The great gate at the end of the arena, the Porta Libitinaria, the gate of death, is opened. The attendants attach a heavy iron hook to the foot of the dead gladiator, and his body is unceremoniously dragged out of the arena, leaving a long, dark trail on the pale sand. The spectacle is not always a duel to the death. To add variety to the afternoon, the next event is a group combat. A team of 5 gladiators enters from each gate. They are the primi poli, the toe-pranked, and most experienced fighters of their troop. This is not a chaotic brawl. It is a miniature battle, fought with skill and tactics. The two groups advance in a disciplined line, their shields locked, their swords and spears held ready. They clash in the center of the arena, the fight, a complex and beautiful display of formation fighting. This fight, is not to the death. To risk so many of these valuable, highly trained performers at once would be a great and foolish expense. The combat is to a surrender until one team is clearly outmaneuvered and lays down its arms. After 10 minutes of skillful combat, one team gains the advantage, and the other, acknowledging their defeat, kneels and signals their surrender. The crowd cheers, appreciating the skill of the victors and the professionalism of the losers. The afternoon is now wearing on. The sun is lower in the sky, and the shadows of the Colosseum's great walls are beginning to creep across the arena floor. You have witnessed a display of skill and a grant of mercy. You have witnessed a brutal, efficient death in its grim religious ritual. And you have witnessed a display of tactical, team-based combat. The contest of skill has been shown in all its varied, beautiful, and terrible forms. The sand is raked clean once more, and the crowd stirs with a new anticipation. The final and most important matches of the day are yet to come. The sun is now a great red-orange disk, beginning its slow descent towards the hills west of Rome. The light inside the Colosseum has softened, the shadows growing long across the sand. This is the golden hour, the time for the final and most anticipated matches of the day. The contests between the great champions and the most exotic of the gladiatorial types. A great rumbling cheer goes up from the crowd as the herald announces the next contest. A gate opens, and something entirely new enters the arena. It is a war chariot, a light, two-wheeled vehicle pulled by two powerful, spirited horses. On board are two men, a driver and a fighter known as an esidarius. He is a warrior in the Celtic style, his bare chest adorned with painted symbols, and he is armed with a handful of light javelins and a long leaf-bladed spear. His opponent enters from the opposite gate. He is a Dimicaris, a fighter of incredible skill and rarity, for he fights with a sword in each hand. He is lightly armored, his movements fluid and predatory, a whirlwind of offensive steel. The fight is a spectacular display of speed and chaos. The chariot thunders around the perimeter of the arena, the esidarius skillfully hurling his javelins at the two-sworded fighter. The Dimicaris is a blur of motion, dodging, weaving, and using his twin blades to deflect the incoming spears. His goal is to get close, to get past the deadly wheels and the stamping hooves of the horses, and to engage the fighter in a close-quarters battle where his two blades will give him the advantage. The crowd is on its feet, roaring with every pass of the chariot, with every nimble dodge of the Dimicaris. It is a wild, unpredictable, and thrilling contest, a perfect spectacle for the waning hours of the day. Finally, the Dimicaris sees an opening. As the chariot turns, he makes a mad dash, leaping over the path of a javelin, and with a skillful upward thrust of his sword, he wounds one of the horses in the leg. The animal screams and stumbles, bringing the chariot to a crashing, chaotic halt. The esidarius is thrown to the ground, and his opponent is upon him in an instant. The fight is over. Now comes the final and greatest match of the day, the headline event. The herald's voice booms as he announces the name of the champion, a man whose name is known throughout the city, Marcus Attilius, a hoplomachus, a veteran of 30 combats, a man who has earned his freedom in the arena, but continues to fight for glory and for gold. A great, deafening roar of adoration goes up from the crowd as he enters. He is a magnificent figure, armed in the style of a Greek hoplite. He wears a shining, plumed bronze helmet, a small round shield, and he carries a long, heavy spear. He moves with the calm, unshakable confidence of a man who has faced death 100 times and has always emerged the victor. His opponent is a young, immensely strong, but less experienced challenger. The two men salute the emperor, and the final combat begins. What follows is not a wild, chaotic brawl, but a masterclass in the art of gladiatorial combat. The young challenger is all aggression, his attacks powerful and relentless. But the champion Attilius is a wall of calm, patient skill. He parries every thrust of his opponent's spear with a minimal, almost effortless movement of his small shield. He uses his own spear not to attack, but to control the space, to keep his opponent at the perfect distance. He lets the younger man exhaust himself in a flurry of fruitless attacks. You watch, mesmerized by his economy of motion, by the sheer, arrogant confidence of his defense. He is not just fighting, he is teaching. Then he sees his moment. It's the young challenger, his arm growing weary, makes a lunge that is a fraction of a second too slow. Attilius, in a single fluid motion that is almost too fast to see, deflects the spear, steps inside his opponent's guard, and with the hilt of his own weapon, he strikes the younger man on the side of the head. The challenger stumbles, disoriented, and Attilius hooks a leg behind him, sending him crashing to the sand. He has not killed him. He has not even wounded him. He has simply and completely defeated him. The young man, knowing he has been utterly outmatched, immediately raises his finger in surrender. The crowd, in appreciation of both the challenger's courage and the champion's sublime skill, roars for mercy. The emperor, with a smile, grants it. The final fight is over. The day's combat is complete. The victorious gladiators from all the afternoon's matches are now called back into the arena one last time. They stand, their bodies bruised and bleeding, before the imperial box to receive their rewards. You watch as they are presented with laurel wreaths, and with their prize money, great silver platters piled high with gold and silver coins. For the champion Attilius there is the highest honor of all, a rudes, a simple wooden sword, the symbol that his career is now over, that he is, for the second and final time, a free man to retire in glory. The emperor rises. The crowd gives him one last thunderous ovation. He gives a final wave, and then he and his retinue depart. The great games are officially over. The sun has now set. The great Valerium is being slowly, carefully retracted. The sky above is a deep bruised purple, and the first stars are beginning to appear. The crowd, their appetite for spectacle and for blood completely sated, begins its slow, great, and weary exodus. The hour of the gladiators has ended. The final thunderous ovation for the champions and for the emperor fades into a low, weary murmur. The great spectacle is over. The sun has now completely disappeared behind the Janiculum hill, leaving the sky a deep, bruised purple. A collective weary sigh seems to pass through the 50,000 spectators. It has been a long, loud, and emotionally exhausting day. Now it is time to go home. The final thunderous ovation for the champions and for the emperor fades into a low, weary murmur. The great spectacle is over. The sun has now completely disappeared behind the Janiculum hill, leaving the sky a deep, bruised purple. A collective weary sigh seems to pass through the 50,000 spectators. It has been a long, loud, and emotionally exhausting day. Now it is time to go home. The great exodus begins. You, Lucius, rise from your hard stone seat, your body stiff and your ears still ringing from the constant roar of the crowd. You join the slow, shuffling river of humanity as it begins its great, inexorable flood towards the 80 arched exits of the amphitheater. You descend through the same cavernous, vaulted corridors that you ascended in the morning, but the atmosphere is completely different. The bright, expectant energy of the morning has been replaced by a tired, satisfied lethargy. The corridors are no longer filled with bright sunlight, but are now a dim, echoing world of shadows, lit by the flickering, smoky light of thousands of torches that have been placed in brackets along the walls. The air is thick with the accumulated smells of the long day, the lingering, sweet perfume of the saffron water, the smell of spilled wine, of roasted nuts, and the undeniable, heavy human smell of 50,000 sweating bodies that have been packed together for 10 hours. As you make your way down a long, sloping ramp, you catch one final glimpse of the arena floor below. It is a grim and industrious scene. Under the light of 100 torches, the cleanup crew, the Heronary, are performing their final grim task of the night. You see them dragging the last of the day's corpses, both man and beast, towards the gate of death. Other men are already at work with their great wide rakes, turning over the blood-soaked darkened sand, smoothing it over, erasing the history of the day's violent contests. In a few hours, the sand will once again be a pristine and deceptively peaceful, pale oval, ready for the next day of games. You finally emerge from your designated vomitorium and back out into the Roman night. The area around the Colosseum is a scene of vibrant, chaotic life. The day's formal spectacle is over, but the city's informal celebration is in full swing. The streets are still packed with people, their white togas ghostly in the torchlight. The air is filled with the shouts of 1,000 vendors, taking advantage of the departing crowd. Stalls that had been shuttered during the day are now open, selling hot sausages, grilled fish, and cups of cheap, sweet wine. The mood is boisterous and celebratory. You hear men, their tongues loosened by wine, drunkenly reenacting the best moments of the gladiatorial matches, using sticks as pretend swords. Others are loudly arguing over the skill of the defeated Retiarius, or the courage of the champion Attilius. You and your brother, Flavius, push your way through the happy, noisy crowd and begin the long, slow walk home. As you move away from the great glowing edifice of the Colosseum, the streets become darker, quieter, and more familiar. The great public roar of the arena is replaced by the more intimate sounds of the city at night, the distant barking of a dog, the laughter from a tavern, the soft shuffling footsteps of other citizens making their own weary way home. As you walk, your mind replays the images of the day. You think of the strange, beautiful, and terrifying beasts of the morning hunt, a living testament to the vast and limitless reach of your empire. You think of the grim, efficient executions of the midday, a stark and satisfying reminder of the power and finality of Roman law. And you think of the gladiators, of their skill, of their courage, of the thrilling life and death drama they performed for your pleasure. You do not feel horror. You do not feel pity. You feel sated. You feel entertained. And you feel, more than anything else, a deep and profound sense of pride. You are a Roman. To be a Roman is to be a master of the world, and the games are the ultimate expression of that mastery. It is your right as a citizen to witness these displays of power, to partake in the emperor's generosity, and to be reminded of the strength and the glory of the empire to which you belong. The games have fulfilled their purpose. They have left you feeling thrilled, satisfied, and above all, deeply and unshakably Roman. You finally arrive back at your own insula, the tall, dark, and familiar apartment building in your quiet residential street. You climb the long flights of stairs to your small apartment. The grand public spectacle is over. You have returned to your own small private life. The day, with all its sound and all its fury, is now just a vibrant and satisfying memory. You climb the 4 long flights of dark, narrow stairs to your apartment in the bustling insula. You push open the simple wooden door of your home, and you step from the public world into the private. The change is as sudden and as complete as stepping out of a storm into a quiet, warm room. The great roaring and chaotic city is left behind. Here, there are only the familiar, comforting sounds of your own home, the soft crackle of the olive oil lamp, the gentle bubbling of a pot of water on the small charcoal brazier, the quiet breathing of your children, who are already asleep in the small curtained-off alcove that serves as their bedroom. The air no longer smells of the 50,000 sweating bodies of the crowd, or of blood and saffron and dust. Oh, it smells of home, of wood smoke, of the garlic and herbs your wife is cooking with, of clean linen. It is the smell of your own small, ordered life. Your wife, Livia, greets you with a quiet smile. Her day has been as long as yours, a constant struggle of marketing, of cleaning, of caring for the children in the cramped, noisy world of the apartment building. She asks about the games, and you give her the highlights, your voice still hoarse from a day of shouting. You tell her of the magnificent elephant that fought a rhinoceros, of the skill of the archers against the ostriches, and of the final brilliant victory of the champion, Marcus Attilius. You sit together for your late evening meal, the cena. It is not a grand feast. It is the simple, humble food of a Roman merchant. There is a thick porridge of wheat, the pulse cooked with lentils and vegetables. There is a piece of dark, crusty bread and a small bowl of olives. You share a cup of wine, heavily diluted with water. The conversation is not of emperors and gladiators. It is the quiet, domestic talk of a husband and a wife at the end of a long day. You speak of the rising price of olive oil at the Forum. You speak of the persistent leak in the roof of your building and of the noisy neighbors in the apartment below. You speak of your son's progress with his tutor. It is a conversation of small, ordinary, and profoundly important things. The gentle, human rhythm that lies beneath the grand, brutal spectacle of the empire. This simple meal, this quiet conversation in the warm, flickering lamplight of your own home, is the other, truer side of what it means to be a Roman. After the meal, you empty your pockets onto the table. You place the small pottery shard, your tessera, on the table, a small souvenir of your great day out. You also present, with a small flourish, the prize from the Spartiates. You went to one of the distribution points on the way home and redeemed your wooden token. You now place a loaf of fine white bread on the table, a rare luxury compared to the coarse dark bread you usually eat. It is a gift from the emperor, a small piece of the day's spectacle that you have brought back to share with your family. The long, exhausting day is finally catching up with you. A weariness so profound, it is a physical weight settles into your bones. You wash your face and your dust-covered feet in a basin of water. As you prepare for bed, you can hear the sounds of the great living building all around you. Through the thin walls of the insula, you can hear the faint sound of a baby crying in the apartment above, the sound of a heated argument from across the courtyard, the distant melodic notes of a flute being played somewhere in the darkness. It is the sound of a million ordinary lives, all packed together, all living out their own small, quiet stories in the shadow of the great monuments and the great events of the city. You lie down on your mattress, which is stuffed with straw. The roar of the Colosseum is now just a faint, ringing echo in your ears. The brutal, vivid images of the day, the lion, the fallen gladiator, the cheering crowd begin to soften, to fade, to merge into the hazy, indistinct world of memory. You are just one man, in one small room, in a city of 1,000,000 souls. You have been a part of the great, beating heart of Rome for a day. You have felt its power, its glory, and its brutality. And now you have returned to your own, small and quiet corner of it. As you drift off to sleep, your mind filled with the lingering dust of the arena, you feel a sense of a deep, untroubled, and utterly secure belonging. Your day is truly over. You lie in the quiet darkness of your small apartment, the chaotic, roaring world of the Colosseum, now a distant, fading echo. Your sleep is a deep and heavy one. The sleep of a man who has been physically and emotionally exhausted by a long day of intense spectacle. As you sleep, the great city of Rome sleeps around you. The noisy, bustling streets are now quiet, empty corridors bathed in the soft, pale light of the moon. The great marble temples of the Forum are silent, their gods and goddesses slumbering in the darkness. And in its valley, the Colosseum itself now rests. It is a great, dark, and silent mountain of stone, its 80 empty arches like hollow, sightless eyes. The sand of its arena, raked clean and smooth, lies undisturbed, holding no memory of the blood and the glory of the day. The games you have just witnessed were more than just a day of simple, brutal entertainment. They were the very heart of what it meant to be Roman. A complex and sophisticated instrument of social and political control. A philosophy of empire made manifest in a theater of sand and stone. The great spectacles, the ludi, were what the poet Juvenal would famously call panem at Churgens' bread and circuses. They were a grand and deliberate bargain between the emperor and his people. The emperor provided the free grain to feed the city's massive, often restless population, and he provided the free, spectacular games to occupy their minds. A well-fed and well-entertained populace, the rulers knew, was not a populace that was likely to rebel. Every aspect of the day was a carefully crafted lesson in Roman power. The exotic beasts brought from the farthest corners of the world, the lions from Africa, the tigers from Parthia, the bears from Caledonia, were a living, breathing map of the empire's immense and ever-expanding reach. They were a statement that there was no corner of the known world that Rome could not touch, no creature that it could not conquer and bring to the city to die for the pleasure of its citizens. The executions of the midday were a grim and effective reinforcement of the power of Roman law, a public demonstration of the terrible and final consequences of crime and rebellion. And the gladiators, the heroes of the afternoon, were a living embodiment of the Roman martial ideal, a combination of skill, of courage, and of a willingness to face death with a stoic and professional calm. For you, Lucius, and for the millions of other ordinary citizens of Rome, the games were a powerful social glue. For one day, the rich and the poor, the powerful and the humble, all gathered in one place. Their eyes fixed on the same spectacle, their voices joined in the same roaring chorus. You were reminded, in the most visceral way possible, of your shared identity. To be a Roman was to be a spectator at this great, terrible, and magnificent show. It was to be a part of the greatest empire the world had ever known. As you sleep, the lingering dust of the arena settles in your mind, the memories of the day becoming the substance of your dreams. The great day of games is over. Its purpose has been served. The city of Rome has been entertained, its passions have been spent, and its faith in the power and the glory of the emperor has been renewed. Tomorrow, the city will wake once more, and the ordinary, mundane life of commerce, of politics, and of survival will begin again. Our journey to the Roman Colosseum is now at an end. We have heard the roar of the crowd, felt the sun on the high stone seats, and witnessed the grim and glorious spectacle of the arena. It was a world where an empire's power was displayed in a theater of blood, where the lives of men and beasts were a form of public entertainment, and where a single day's spectacle could unite an entire city. That world of roaring crowds, of sun-drenched sand, and of gleaming armor has now faded away, leaving only the quiet of the present moment. The Romans' long day of spectacle is over, and now so is yours. There is nothing left to do but to rest, to let go of the day, and to drift into the deep and peaceful sleep that you deserve. Rest now, sleep well.